Norwich, a fine industrious city and centre of a large agricultural community. Great Yarmouth, a thriving fishing port and fashionable watering place. Both these towns depended on transport between one another and the outside world. Up till the middle of the 19th century, they relied on slow and tedious road and water transport. It was decided that a railway would increase prosperity, and plans were put in motion. The first railway in Norfolk, the Yarmouth and Norwich, was begun in April 1843 and completed within a year. From the 1st of May 1844, trains began to run from Norwich Station, situated on a meadow near Foundry Bridge, and ran for 20 miles via Brundall and Reedham to Yarmouth. First, second and third class coaches were introduced, the latter conveying passengers all the way for 1 3d. This was the first railway in the country to adopt Cook and Wheatstone's improved electric telegraph block working system. In 1845, the Yarmouth and Norwich Railway and the Norwich and Brandon Railway combined to form the Norfolk Railway. The same year, a bridge built over the river in Norwich connected the London line to Norwich Station, which was rebuilt to accommodate the increased traffic. The Norfolk Railway engines hauled the trains for 3 years until the company was absorbed into the Eastern Counties Railway in 1848. This company was one of the first to introduce smoking saloons on their trains. In 1862, the Eastern Counties merged with other East Anglian lines to form the Great Eastern Railway. Since the installation of the electric telegraph on the single track of the Norwich and Yarmouth line, it controlled the trains without mishap. The 5 needle instruments were considered to be a model of their kind, though no one knew that at this very spot in 1874 it was to contribute to one of the worst railway collisions of the 19th century. It was single-line track, but there were 3 places between Norwich and Yarmouth where trains could pass. The first of these was Brundall. The movement of trains through this section was controlled at Norwich and Brundall by the electric telegraph block system. On September the 10th, 1874, the 5 o'clock express from London should have reached Norwich Station at 9 o'clock, but was running 20 minutes late. And so the 9:10 connection waiting to leave for Great Yarmouth was delayed. A Yarmouth mail train on its way to Norwich was waiting at Brundall to pass the connection there so that it could continue its journey on the single line. The drama began at 9:16 when Alfred Cooper, the Norwich night inspector who had just come on duty, went to the station master's office as usual to receive his orders for the night. As the London Express was late in arriving, Cooper suggested that the mail train be allowed to leave Brundall. Mr. Sproul, the station master, consulted his watch and said, "We will not have the mail up." Cooper then reminded him that there was an order allowing them to detain the 9:10 connection to Yarmouth as late as 9:35. To this, the station master made an ambiguous reply, "All right," and added, "We will soon get her off." Now, it seems clear that Sproul's "all right" was delivered in a tone of impatient dismissal, and that by her he was referring to the connection and not to the mail. But evidently Cooper thought that Sproul had conceded his point. He left the office and ordered John Robson, the young telegraph clerk, to tell Brundall to send the mail on to Norwich, who then wrote it down. Now, Cooper should have written this order himself and signed it, but instead he hurried away. Robson now sent the message. At 9:23, the express from London arrived. As she drew into the platform, the day inspector, Parker, due shortly to go off duty, carried out his normal procedure of authorizing the driver of the connection to proceed to Brundall. As he did so, Cooper came up to him. He asked Cooper whether he had arranged for the mail to leave Brundall. Inexplicably, Cooper answered no. At 9:30, the connection drew out for Brundall. A few moments later, Robson suddenly realized the connection was not standing at the platform. He stood confused as Cooper hurried up to him, saying, "You haven't ordered the mail up, have you?" "Yes, you told me to order up," Robson replied. He at once signaled to Brundall, "Stop mail." Almost immediately came the reply, "Mail left." He turned round, white-faced, and pushing the pad with its fatal message towards Cooper, he asked him to sign it. "No," said Cooper, "I never gave you that message. I did not." But by now the two trains were hurtling towards each other on the single track. The night was wet and the rails slippery, and as both drivers thought that the other was waiting for them, they put on extra speed. Amongst the passengers on the Norwich train was John Betts, a stoker with the Great Eastern Railway. He was on a half-day's leave and taking his wife Elizabeth and their 3-year-old son Charles to Beccles. Elizabeth cradled in her arms her newly born baby son, yet to be christened. On the mail train was the guard in charge of the mail bags, George Wright. Thorpe village, the noise of the crash brought people running from their homes. The last coach of the Norwich train had not yet cleared the bridge over the Yare. The drivers and firemen of both locomotives were killed instantly, and 18 passengers also died on the spot. Others were lying about wounded, and some of these were to die later. Elizabeth Betts was killed instantly. She lay amongst the wreckage with her newborn child, also dead. Not far from her lay her husband with a fractured skull. But he was still alive and taken to Thorpe Hospital, where he died a few days later. All the time, he called continually for his wife. His baby son, Charles, received a serious scalp wound, but was later to recover. The two trains had met with such force that the shattered coaches piled up in a tangle of wreckage 30 feet high. The dead were taken to Field's boathouse close by and to the 3 Tons Inn. George Wright, the mail train guard, suffered a head wound, but managed to get his mail bags onto a cart and take them to the post office. In all, 25 people died, and over 50 were injured. Crowds of people attended the funerals, and every mark of sympathy was shown to the bereaved families. Many local people died or were injured, and special services in Norwich churches on the following Sunday were filled with sadness. If the trains had met on the bridge, there would have been even more casualties. But of course, it should never have happened. If a tired and overworked station master and his staff had been more conscientious in keeping to the company regulations, the tragedy might not have happened. At the inquest, it was found that the accident was due to the negligence of Robson and Cooper, on whom was returned a verdict of manslaughter. The system was certainly at fault in that such a tragedy could have occurred at all. Whoever, or whatever we blame, the result was the worst head-on collision in the history of British railways.